Most people walk into a nursery, look at a few fruit trees, and make a decision based on impulse. Whatever looks healthy, whatever has fruit on it already, whatever the label promises. And 5 years later, they're disappointed. The tree is too big, too weak, too unproductive, or produces fruit they don't even know how to store or use. And the problem isn't that fruit trees are hard. The problem is that nobody explains that not all fruit trees are equal, especially in a backyard. Some trees give you food security. Others just give you work. If you only have limited space, you cannot afford to plant the wrong trees. Every square meter matters. Every year matters. Because a fruit tree is not an annual crop. It is a 20 or 30-year commitment. And the difference between a backyard that quietly feeds a family every year and one that looks impressive but produces very little comes down to choosing the right 7 trees from the beginning. The first tree every backyard should have is the apple. And this is non-negotiable. Apples are the backbone of temperate climate food production. They store better than almost any other fruit. In a cool, dark space, apples can last 4 to 6 months without any processing. A single mature apple tree can produce 50 to 100 pounds of fruit per year when managed correctly. And apples respond better to pruning than almost any other fruit tree, which means you can control their size, shape, and productivity. If you had space for only one fruit tree, it should be an apple because it gives you fresh fruit, storage fruit, cooking fruit, and preservation options all from one tree. The second tree every backyard should have is the pear. Pears are often overlooked, but they are one of the most reliable producers once established. They tolerate cold well, they are long-lived, and they produce fruit that stores almost as well as apples. A properly managed pear tree will outlive you. And unlike many fruits, pears are harvested mature but unripe, which spreads the harvest window and reduces losses. Pear trees do grow vigorously, which means they require early pruning discipline, but once shaped, they become incredibly consistent producers. This is the kind of tree that feeds families quietly year after year, without drama. The third tree every backyard should have is the plum. Plums are fast to bear, often producing fruit within 3 years. They fill a gap that apples and pears don't, which is fresh summer fruit. While apples and pears are about long-term storage, plums are about abundance during the season. A mature plum tree can produce more fruit than most families can eat fresh, which makes it ideal for drying, jam, and preserves. Plums also tolerate a wide range of climates and soils, making them one of the most adaptable fruit trees you can plant. And psychologically, plums matter because they reward you early. They keep people motivated to care for the rest of the orchard. The fourth tree every backyard should have is the cherry. And this is where most people make a mistake. They plant cherries and let them grow tall, and then complain they can't reach the fruit. But a cherry tree, when kept compact and well pruned, is one of the highest value fruits you can grow. Store-bought cherries are expensive. Backyard cherries are not. A single tree can produce pounds of fruit that would cost a fortune at the market. Cherries also freeze exceptionally well, which turns a short harvest window into months of use. The key with cherries is control. If you manage their height and airflow, they reward you heavily. The fifth tree every backyard should have is the peach. Peaches are fragile compared to apples and pears, but the payoff is immediate and obvious. Nothing you buy in a store compares to a tree-ripened peach. Peaches produce heavily, they bear young, and they give you a high return for the space they occupy. But peaches demand respect. They require annual pruning, disease awareness, and sunlight. If you neglect them, they decline quickly. But if you commit to them, they become one of the most productive and satisfying trees you can grow. This is the tree that reminds you why you planted fruit trees in the first place. The sixth tree every backyard should have is the apricot. Apricots are often misunderstood because they bloom early and can lose flowers to frost. But when placed correctly and pruned well, they are incredibly productive. Apricots excel in drier climates and well-drained soils. They are one of the best fruits for drying, which turns a short harvest into a year-round food source. A single apricot tree can produce more fruit than you expect, and because apricots are rarely grown commercially at peak ripeness, backyard apricots are a completely different food. This is a tree that rewards knowledge and placement more than luck. The seventh tree every backyard should have is the quince. And this is the tree almost nobody plants, which is exactly why it belongs on this list. Quinces are tough, disease-resistant, and low-maintenance. They don't need heavy pruning. They tolerate poor soils better than most fruit trees. And while you don't eat quince raw, they are one of the most valuable processing fruits you can grow. Quinces turn into jelly, paste, and preserves that store for years. They are high in pectin, which makes them invaluable for preserving other fruits. One quince tree can support an entire preservation system. This is not a dessert fruit. This is a utility fruit. Now here's the part most people miss. These 7 trees are not just chosen because they taste good. They are chosen because together they form a system. Apples and pears give you long-term storage. Plums, cherries, peaches, and apricots give you seasonal abundance. Quinces give you preservation power. Spread across a year, these trees provide fresh fruit, stored fruit, dried fruit, frozen fruit, and preserved fruit with very little external input once established. This is what separates serious backyard growers from casual gardeners. Casual gardeners plant what they like. Serious growers plant what feeds them. And feeding yourself is not about one harvest. It's about consistency across seasons and years. Another mistake people make is thinking they need dozens of trees. They don't. 7 well-chosen, well-managed trees will outperform 20 neglected ones. Space is not about quantity. It's about efficiency. A compact apple tree producing 60 pounds of fruit is better than a massive tree producing 20. A peach tree that fruits every year is better than one that collapses after 5. These 7 trees also respond well to pruning systems that keep them small and productive. That matters in a backyard. You don't want ladders. You don't want broken branches. You want trees you can manage from the ground. Trees that fit into your life instead of dominating it. And there is another long-term advantage. Diversity. By planting different species, you spread risk. A bad year for peaches might still be a great year for apples. Late frost might hit apricots, but spare pears. Disease pressure rarely affects all species equally. A mixed backyard orchard is resilient by design. This is how people used to plant. Not rows of one tree, but a selection chosen for reliability, storage, and use. Modern gardening culture focuses on novelty. Traditional self-sufficiency focused on function. And these 7 trees show up again and again in old gardens for a reason. You're not just planting fruit. You're planting habits, harvest routines, preservation rhythms, winter storage, summer abundance. These trees shape how you interact with food throughout the year. They change how often you go to the store. They change how you think about seasons. 5 years from now, a backyard with these 7 trees looks different. The apple and pear are steady and predictable. The plum and cherry are generous. The peach and apricot are exciting. The quince quietly supports everything else. And together, they create a backyard that produces food instead of just shade. Most people will never experience this because they plant randomly and manage poorly. But if you choose deliberately and prune correctly, these 7 trees are enough to turn a normal backyard into a serious food-producing system. You are not planting for one harvest. You are planting for decades. And these are the 7 fruit trees that make that commitment worth it.